So after a Super Tuesday that did not necessarily go the way it looked like it was going to a few days ago for Bernie Sanders, what comes next? Well, we're gonna have a little debate about the near term, but in the immediate term, we do know that apparently breaking news, he's going to hold a press conference in Burlington, Vermont at 2 p.m., which is actually very soon local time. And so Benjamin Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show, joins us once again. I am seeing some social media buzz about the possibility that maybe it's a big endorsement. I know that you might just be finding out about this now. What do you make about this press conference announcement?
We will see. I mean, I would be surprised if Elizabeth Warren is going to go ahead and endorse him. It would be a welcome endorsement. I think it would be the kind of push that he needs. Quite frankly, we all need. But I just would have to, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. This is the sort of morning where I am just looking for some good news, I guess, and we'll see. I know it would be pretty shocking at this point if one particular endorsement did come in.
Can I on that line, because this is speculation when people want Elizabeth Warren to drop out before Super Tuesday. Directly to Ben, because I've talked to everyone else here about it. Do you think that's a good move, and how much would that really accelerate things with Bernie Sanders? If Elizabeth Warren was on board with Bernie Sanders?
Oh no, I mean, that would be huge, right? Then we could finally have the conversation about the divide that has been in the Democratic Party forever. It would literally be the progressive movement in total against the conservative, moderate, centrist movement in the Democratic Party. So I would love it, to be honest with you.
How do you feel hardcore Bernie Sanders supporters would respond? Because there's been a little bit of anger and distrust and pushback because of some of the things Elizabeth Warren has done, because everyone's hyper because of how important this election is.
Right. I would just say, just be willing to accept this information, right? Accept it and not reject it. It's a good truth, right? It's a good thing that is happening. It helps you towards your goals. So sometimes accepting good things that help you towards your goal means to just kind of bite your tongue a little bit. It's okay. It's okay. Hold back. It'll be worthwhile to have the endorsement.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean, like, if you are, I think, rightfully frustrated by some of the attacks that she's launched against Bernie Sanders, doesn't mean that if she endorses him, suddenly the slate's clean and she's cool, but it is helpful to have more support on Bernie's side. So I think those are separate conversations that we can have both. Benjamin, I am curious though, in terms of overall campaign strategy, regardless of what happens today for Bernie Sanders, the race is different than it looked like it was going to be a week ago. It's very tight in terms of the delegate count. It looks like we will end up with a 1 versus 1 race. If you were advising the Bernie Sanders camp, what are some of the suggestions you would make to them about how they should adapt to the way the race is evolving?
Yeah, so I probably would catch a lot of flack for this, but I'm gonna say, put your money in converting older voters. The young vote has not, and when we say young, I think under 29, I think it was like 10% in South Carolina turnout. It is ridiculously low, and I don't know that we can count on them to help us win these primaries. Now, this is I mean, I think they're a revolutionary generation. I think they're more left than us, but in terms of getting up and coming to the polls, they haven't done that so far. So I think one of the things they're gonna have to do is try to convert as many boomers as possible, which may be, the most difficult thing they ever try.
Yeah, so I guess I'm curious about that, because as many people have pointed out, much of the democratic socialism of the Bernie Sanders movement is trying to take the situation that the blessed elderly have, thanks to programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, those sorts of things, or Medicare specifically, and just say, hey, maybe we could all have that. But the thing is, those older voters already do have that. So how do you think you should go about trying to get some of them to take a look at him when they've historically been a little bit scared of his approach? They've been told that he's too radical.
Yeah, so this is like the nuclear option, right? I think we have to start appealing to our parents and our grandparents by letting them know, look, the reason we're broke, the reason we have to always ask you for money, the reason we're still staying in your house or in your basement, whatever the case would be, the reason most kids are not doing as good or definitely not doing better than their parents, it's a systemic problem. Right? And if you want your kids to keep living in your basement, if you want that's the only way that you can really appeal to boomers. I know it's kind of tongue in cheek and I know it's kind of cringy, but they really have that view of younger generations, particularly those boomers who are established, right? You have plenty of radical boomers who are farther left than all of us, right? But then there are a lot who make up the establishment, and they have this certain condescending gaze when they look at us in terms of our accomplishments. But there's a reason your kid and your neighbor's kid and the grandkids across this country, it's systemic, right? And we're fighting against forces that we can finally address with the presidency of Bernie Sanders.
You know, and I'm also curious. So that was sort of for the Bernie camp. For people like us who have shows, maybe people watching this that communicate on social media and in real life, we're looking at a possible race where Biden is about to get, you know, like more money than God has spent on ads. Some of it supporting him, probably most of it attacking Bernie Sanders. The media has so far not done their job in properly vetting Joe Biden. They let the whole "I was arrested in South Africa" thing effectively dissipate after an hour or two. And so how do we make sure that people know who these two candidates really are?
Right, I think we just have to apply the pressure like we would anyone else, right? And I try to make sure people understand. Listen, when you listen to my show, you're going to eventually come across episodes where I disagree and I'm critiquing Bernie Sanders. Now, if you know I'm going to critique Bernie Sanders and I even critique and correct myself, you should expect that we are going to come with a full force of our vetting power against any other candidate, right? There are no favorites. This isn't about a cult of personality and protecting your guy, because what happens is whatever is overlooked in the primaries will be exploited by Donald Trump in the general election. So you should be thanking us.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier on, but I have what I think is a very good view of how Bernie Sanders would do, for instance, on the debate stage against Donald Trump. I would be very comfortable with that. We all have concerns about Joe Biden there. I mean, so like looking forward, and like we've said a million times, it is an over by a long shot. If it were Joe Biden, tell me a little bit about your feelings about the general election and how that might play out.
Listen, I mean, you have to ask yourself a couple of key questions. Is Joe Biden as good of a candidate as Hillary Clinton? No, he's not. Does he have a movement behind him that will go knock on doors and canvass? No, he doesn't. Is he actually going to be able to convert enough Republicans to actually make up for the depressed vote that he's going to encourage, right? No, he won't. And so no one can make a logical explanation, a reason to say why he is going to perform better against Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton did. And then the flip side of it is Donald Trump supporters are motivated. Like they're going out into the primaries, they're voting, they're showing up to his rallies, they're still buying his merchandise. They have fresh and clean "Make America Great Again" hats for every occasion. So you really are underestimating the force that's behind Donald Trump if you think that you can go into this general election with someone who does not have an inspirational bone in his body.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.